Hello and welcome everybody to Week 6, Day 1 of the LCS Challengers League, brought to you by Subway. I'm Kangas. I'll be walking you through the action today, joined for the first time in 2024. They finally put us together, Beat. I got beat down on the desk.
Hey, what's up, Kangas? They couldn't hold us back. We were talking about it earlier on when we hopped in the call a few hours ago. They want to separate us. They're too afraid of our power, but they don't
our
have any
powers
control.
Combined can barely be contained, right? What you been up to? I feel like we haven't even hung out at all. This is our time to catch up live on broadcast.
You know, you're right, and I mostly blame you for that because where have you been? Because I am the one throwing out DMs to no response. I have to get your attention on Twitter. How crazy
is that? We had a late night last night, okay? We were up editing a video, which I'm happy we might get on the broadcast at some point later today. You can check it out on socials as well, because we got some fun matches coming up ahead of us today. But before we get into those, let's take a look at the current standings and how things are shaking out in the NACL. Walk me through this, B, because we got a couple top dogs differentiating themselves from the pack.
100%. We've been singing the praises of FlyQuest Challengers and MU all split. Appropriately so. They've only dropped 2 games the entire time, and that's why that's going to be, honestly, the most exciting match of the split that we have to end off today. But also, I want to give that shout out to Supernova, who've been pretty quietly doing a really solid job staying at this top 3 spot. They've only dropped 1 series, and they're looking like one of the strongest teams for sure.
One of the interesting things about the current standings is because the top half is so heavy, 2 teams 5-0 in their series scores, it means that we have more teams in the bottom half that are not at 50-50 win records. Our top 4 are, above 50% win rate, but AoE in 5th place still top 50%, but actually a negative win rate, which is kind of crazy. Fun fact, they have a positive game win rate, just negative series win rate. That's a funny little stat for AoE right there. But let's take a look at the action immediately ahead of us then, because you've highlighted it, you've teased it. FlyQuest Challengers versus Seville will happen at the end of the day today. Only one can walk away undefeated. We will also get to see Supernova, like you said, challenging for one of those top spots, go up against Disguised in our second series. But we're kicking things off with Wildcard versus Fear.
And a theme that we've started to kind of hit on these last couple of weeks as we approach the end of the regular split here in spring is the fact that some of these teams are fighting to not only make playoffs, but avoid the promotion tournament by staying out of the bottom 2. And Wildcard and DSG are 2 teams who we were kind of, I won't say quite in danger necessarily, but these last couple of games are going to be super important for them.
I'm happy you highlight that. Let's take a look at Wildcard's roster while we dive more into their current standings. They are in the top 8 teams, and they're than the teams around them. They are differentiating themselves from the pack, from Lit Esports, from Team Liquid Challengers, because they have 1 extra game score. If they 2-0 the rest of their schedule, they are guaranteed to make it in. There's no chance of tiebreakers or anything like that. If they start losing any games, that's when it gets a little tougher for them. But it seems like they're in a comfortable position, especially looking at how Disguised and Mirage current forms are. So, are we up on Wildcard? What do we think about them right now, Beat?
If we're talking about top 8 potential, I'm going to say we're up on Wildcard. They're definitely my pick for the 3 that you just highlighted to make it out of that bottom 2, especially because they have their fate in their own hands. And to be honest, I have a couple pleasant surprises that I've seen from this roster. I mean, just the fact that I think Darklings had a pretty bad year last year. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. But this year has been looking better from him. Aaron and Doxa, as a bot lane and individually, have surprised me a little bit, playing better than I expected. And all of this combined with what we know to be good about Winnie is why I think this team has had a lot of really good early game strategies. The problem at times is translating those 2 wins, but the fact that they consistently have game plans early on is still something I really like to see from them.
Yeah, I mean, we hyped them up because it's basically the St. Louis roster, the collegiate roster plus Quacker in the top lane. So expected a lot of synergy from this team going into the split. I think that if there's a negative we can frame, it's that they sometimes overcommit to plays. But hey, you'd rather commit. Yeah, right. But you'd rather commit than not do anything at all. So they're definitely a high action team. Let's take a look at their opposition. On the other side of the rift, we have Fear, who, interestingly enough, even though they are in top 4 right now, I love these photos. Even though they're in top 4 right now, they have dropped a game in every single one of their series wins, and they've picked up a win in every one of their series losses. So they're the closest to 50-50 that you can get for wins and losses for a team, despite being, towards the top of the standings.
Right, and this is a team that is very interesting. One that I've kind of had some trouble pinning down. I think there are a lot of things I like about this roster. I mean, Chad as a player, I'm always happy to see. Toasty, that exciting young prospect.
Yep.
And Lens is an 80 carry that I've been pretty excited about ever since he joined 100 Thieves Next 2 years ago. So I think this team, it's an interesting matchup into Wildcard because both of these teams kind of have this similar issue where early game can go pretty well for them. But later on, this issue with kind of coordinating plays, I find that for both of these teams, that someone will start a play that it doesn't seem everybody else was on board with, and that is something that has cost them.
It's interesting to see who's leading the charge there. When it comes to Cincinnati Fear, two big names, one Chad, has won Proving Grounds in the past, back in 2021 summer, had a big run there, has always had this reputation being a high-action early-game jungler. Well, that's changed a little bit. We've seen growth from Chad this split. I think a big part of that is Toasty, the rookie mid laner coming in. A lot of eyes were on Toasty during the offseason from all the tryouts, all the combines. A lot of people were scouting him and looking for Toasty to join their rosters, but he's not this high-action early-game mid laner. He's not the type of guy who's going to show up and just smack around his opposition. He's a guy that's going to show up in the team fight and have a really big impact flank, really big impact ultimate, or it's more about the big moments than all these little micro interactions. So it's kind of cool to see Chad change the play style. But as we're getting ready for the game itself, I think that that's where we see some of their losses come, is that we're noticing some growing pains, like you said, for the game plans that not everyone's willing to commit to, and a lot of that sometimes. I struggle to say a lot of it. Sometimes it is Toasty who is the one looking for that big engage, and the team's not really ready to follow up yet.
It happens, and sometimes Chad is guilty of this as well, right? And the concern is just that, right? And even though Chad has expressed a lot of excitement for working with a younger player like Toasty, that time to mesh really just hasn't passed for this team yet. And hopefully, because I don't foresee Fear falling out of contention for playoffs. That's something they will get in a couple of weeks' time. I mean, I was talking to Shochi the other day, talking about how much they've improved as a team for the side of Supernova, and I think that's true of every team. Remember, we pushed this a lot last year because it is just a fact. This is a developmental league, so we're always looking forward, seeing, and kind of hoping for what these teams can do to improve and get better.
Yeah, I think that at least they have a style, though. I like it when a team, especially at the developmental level, is developing a style. When I look at Fear, I'm actually looking at the top side more often than not. You look at the damage percentage. This is something I like to see at the developmental level is, okay, who's stepping up? Who's doing the damage for the teams? Mid lane, bot lane, jungle, all have relatively low damage percentages compared to their peers, but Philip's actually the one that's kind of compensating a lot of that for Fear. And Philip, it's fun to see him come back a little bit into his own, because he's one of those players that we had a lot of excitement for in past splits, and he hasn't always been able to live up to that and continuously perform at this level where we're like, okay, this guy's ready for LCS. He can graduate now. We're happy to send him in. And I think that Philip, if he keeps up this type of performance and continues to improve based on his current form, there's a world where we start having those conversations again. So also a reminder, though, for anybody tuning in, shout outs to Captain Flower. So I know he's going to be co-streaming the games today for NACL. So shout out to anybody in their chat right now. There's probably going to be a lot of new people checking it out. Beatdown, talk about the format here while we're getting ready for pick and ban of game number 1, because this is Fearless Draft, and not everybody necessarily knows what that means.
I'll do you one better, Kangas. Instead of trying to explain it on air, how about we throw to our format explainer video that we made for just such an occasion. So why don't you guys go ahead and watch that, and we'll be back with game 1.
Welcome to the 2024 Spring Split of the LCS Challengers League. This spring will feature 10 teams competing in a single round-robin best-of-3 format, and for the first time ever, we'll be implementing Fearless Drafts. If you're not familiar, Fearless Draft adds a new twist to pick and ban. Once a champion is picked by a team in the series, it cannot be picked by them again. So if Team A drafts Teemo in Game 1, they cannot play Teemo for the rest of the series. Team B could pick Teemo in Game 2, but then wouldn't be able to play him in Game 3. And like LCS, all games will be played on the live patch, so you can take what you see from the games and try them out on your own. The top 8 teams from our regular season advance to the NACL playoffs, which will feature a double elimination bracket with a mix of best-of-3 and best-of-5 matches. Alongside the NACL are 2 qualifier tournaments, which will also feature Fearless Drafts on the live patch. The bottom 2 teams from the NACL regular season will compete against the top 4 teams from the qualifiers in a promotion tournament, battling in a double elimination bracket to qualify into the NACL in summer 2024. All LCS Challengers League games and coverage will be available on twitch.tv/LCS_Challengers, with matches starting right after the LCS. And as a reminder, with team revenue shares, every sub in Twitch Prime directly supports the teams and players. Another split of Challengers League begins right now, and we can't wait to see you there.
We're the LCS Challengers League. We're the future of the LCS.
We're Challengers League. We change our name and format every 2 years. I wonder what the next one's gonna be.
We're Challengers League. Of course we play Best of 3s and Fearless Draft.
We're Challengers League. Of course we have pauses too, but ours are fire alarms.
We're Challengers League.
Who should actually wins here?
We're Challengers League. We play every single weekend, even if LCS takes it off.
We're Challengers League. Our Twitch stream has a sub button.
We're Challengers League. FlyQuest, also #1 right now.
We're Challengers League, and we're taking over the Riot Games Arena.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. We are ready for game 1 of week 6, day 1 of the NACL broadcast. And we're kicking off right into pick and ban Wildcard versus Fear.
And it's going to be an interesting one, especially because, like, remember, guys, we play on the live patch just like the LCS, and 14.4 just came out recently. There are actually a number of pretty interesting changes. Maokai, for example, who's been good for the last year plus, has gotten some pretty noticeable nerfs, in my opinion. The one that stands out to me is the root duration being reduced from his ultimate. Even though we saw Jace buffs coming through, I'm wondering if we're still going to see that combination come through for them. And I'm curious at what's going to be prioritized.
Kind of back-to-back nerfs for Maokai, because he was also getting some changes, slowing down his support power, at least.
Yes.
The jungle power arguably got better. So I do think that he's still in a fine spot. I'm looking at those Cassante buffs. Like, why did we need that? I know you have your own opinions on it. We'll talk about it if they get locked in. But let's catch up on the draft so far. It is Seraphine Nico Karma banned from Wildcard side. Fear banning Ashe. Darius, a classic Quacker pick with the Udyr. So it's Senna priority for Wildcard.
Yeah, which, I mean, Senna, I think, is generally in a really good spot right now. We're seeing a lot of Senna Nautilus, and, of course, that kind of second pick, that lane pairing, can be very flexible. As for Varus Orianna, this is just, like, stock standard, what we've been seeing a lot of lately. I don't believe... Oh, my God, okay, it's locked in.
Okay.
It might just be Senna Yasuo. It might be.
Yeah, Doxa does like this champion. Doxa was a role swap, was a mid laner originally, now playing in the support role, kind of following that trend of mid laners going to support. And I believe this is going to be the second Yasuo game that Doxa has played this split.
Yes. They ran this exact combination, and they're not even bothering with the flex. They're immediately just going to go ahead and pick the Azir, that classic mirror matchup. So I like the Nautilus coming through here. I think you already have a lot of CC and engage from Fear's side, but I think more lockdown, it really doesn't hurt when you're playing against really tricky to lock down characters like Azir and Yasuo.
Yeah, we got the point-and-click ultimate. The Yasuo Windwall can get a lot of value against something like a Varus, but we do have still, you know, the ability to just walk at him as a Nautilus, and he's got to walk into you as well to get his damage off. So this is kind of a scary matchup. Once you see that Nautilus on the enemy team, if you misplay, you can get punished heavily for this. But it's still cool to see regardless, and I'm happy that we are seeing the ability for Doxa to pull off these wacky champs. This is now 2 Yasuo games. He played Nasus earlier as well. I mean, like, Doxa's starting to well, okay, it didn't work, but the theory was fun against the Kalista, so we're seeing a really interesting champ pool come out from Wildcard support lately.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the second rotations as bans as well, I mean, you're seeing the Renekton, something that has not seen very much play, I mean, pretty much anywhere recently. Got buffed on this patch as well. Got more laning power to make up for the fact that he lost Gore Drinker and is in a really tough spot. Jace is also getting a lot of respect as well, which you like to see, because I think those buffs were pretty impactful.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of top lane jungle bans, because we have not seen either of those locked in for either team. Won't surprise me to see something like a Cassante. I mean, if you're looking for a blind pick for Philip, it's a really solid one right now. But instead, it's the Jax ban coming out from Wildcard. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking Wildcard's read is that it's going to be last pick, top laner for Philip. So I think the safest blind, especially left at this point, is going to be the Cassante, and maybe that's what they're trying to set up for. And
I suppose that does make sense. You don't expect them to blind pick the top lane here.
Probably not, especially with something like Xin Zhao still up and available. And I mean, another really strong pickup. Really nice right now. Pairs nicely with the Ori. You have someone who can go in alongside the Nautilus. I think at this point, I think a little more beef in the top lane for Philip, and I'm really liking what Fear have.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Chad go back to this Xin Zhao, first Xin Zhao game of the split. Has played a couple of carries like Viego Nocturne, even J4 Rengar notable. But we had noticed a shift from Chad, willing to play the Trundles, the Sejuanis, the Maokais, more of these tanky frontline engaged champs. But back to carry for Chad. It's Olaf with Sejuani locked in for Wildcard. So we get Quacker on one of his signature picks, and Philip's counter into it is Aatrox.
I kind of like how Wildcard rounded out this draft, actually. I was worried about engage. I was worried about tankiness. The Sedge fixes that. And I'm like, the thing with Olaf all the time is you look at how the enemy comp wants to play. Are they heavily CC reliant? That's just wonderful, Kangas, because Olaf doesn't care about any of that. So I'm interested in how much movement we're going to see towards that top side, even though things have been traditionally very bot-centric since the year started, just to see if either jungler can actually influence that side of the map, especially, you know, Sedge with a melee top. I have a feeling we'll see a lot of attention on that side of the map.
And technically a melee bot as well. I mean, the
That's true.
Yasuo gonna help
That's
out
true.
with that one. I'm not seeing an abundance of Yasuo setup tools. Azir Shuffle's gonna be the big one. Sejuani Arctic Assault can knock up like a target.
Exactly.
So there's a couple things that can set it up, but it's not like the big one like the Orianna combo or,
the
you know, a
Alistar.
Malphite, right? Yeah, like
exactly.
these big ones that's gonna hit everybody. You're looking at Darkwings on the Azir, but this is Darkwing's signature champion. So if anybody can do it on this champ, it's this guy. Game 1. Wildcard versus Fear. Let us know who you're supporting, who you think wins draft, wins game. Spam Wildcard WC and Fear FEAR in chat right now. Let us know your thoughts, as it doesn't look like we're going to get any invades early on here, but we do
I think
get an
they're
early
itching for
stack
it.
from Fear topside.
I think it's a read in hopes that someone's going to try and get a ward on the Raptors, on the red buff, which I think is really good. That early information, so important. So ensuring that that can't happen, I think, is a good move in the end. And okay, so they end up getting the ward down, which is good.
Yeah, I do like the thought, though, here. If your opponent isn't respecting the fact that you could be in the brush, you just start the
You get 'em.
Nautilus hook, and then you're able to at least burn the flash, if not get a kill onto the enemy jungler. But it's just a ward drop by Darkwings instead, so we will be tracking Chad on the clear here when he has the information as Quacker and Philip. Are we dancing off up here?
Wow!
Oh, Undertow lands. Quacker wins. Quacker wins lane.
Yeah, I mean, usually you just see top laners dancing up, but it's all business there, apparently, for Quacker topside. I want to point out
We have
really
seen
quickly.
a lot of dance parties. I'm happy to highlight that, yeah.
Yeah, and I like them.
Warm.
It is. But I want to point out real quick, we don't see a ping over that Raptor ward, so it's my impression that Chad, Toasty, they didn't actually see it. So that information that's given over isn't actually known to them. So I'm curious if Winnie's going to be able to do anything with that knowledge. I mean, once he sees Chad walk towards that Raptors camp, because he's pathing towards the opposite side, there's going to be that opportunity to try and gank Philip.
Yeah, I think that you can still expect, based on where Darkwings was, that it's there. And based on the pathing of Chad so far, he has not shown on it yet. So maybe they do have a thought, even if they didn't ping it, to get that extra little gold and then see the timer on it. It will not expire, though. Chad is spotted on this. So they do know that Chad is going for the full clear top half of the jungle.
And we know, Chad, that's something he says to us pretty often, that he would love to full clear. But part of that aggression we've seen from him, according to him, it comes from people giving him too many opportunities. So if you step out of line in his perception, he's going to try and take something from you, which I think is been part of why we've seen a good amount of success from him. And right now, he's an opportunity
wrap around
mid
for a
lane.
gank into the mid lane here. Yeah, Darkwings is positioning quite far forward. Look at Chad on the mini map, and Winnie as well. They're gonna
They have the same
spot
idea.
each other out here. Darkwings goes in because Winnie's actually making it to the play faster. Toasty does get a couple of autos off and pushes Darkwings away. Chad, do you want to chase this?
No.
Interesting play there. Smart for Darkwings to actually play far forward. Once you see Chad behind you, he just says, all right, I'm going in.
Yeah, the point is to move towards your jungler, so nothing is really traded there. Darkwings will be able to pretty much get that wave in for all intents and purposes. And I think that's just a good read from Winnie. Recognize that Darkwings was the play, especially with that knowledge of where Chad was.
Daption was even roaming up to get some of that action as well. So everyone's looking at the mid lane early on here, but we're back to farming. It is Winnie getting a slight tempo lead on clear speed. He is one camp ahead as he'll clear out this Gromp, go for that top scuttle. Chad's just getting the bot scuttle now. So the Xin Zhao, I like to see him make plays early because it will fall off as the game goes on. Sejuani's just going to keep getting tankier and be this crazy front line, and the Xin Zhao will not have that luxury. So it's, I think, better for Wildcard that nothing happened in that mid lane than it is for Fear, because they want to make action happen.
I agree, and it's looking like Chad is trying to make that happen again, because look who's here.
All right, Darkwing's never burnt Flash earlier, so I think he's fine. He can just walk away. When it becomes Lightning, Chad's not going to try it. So Darkwings doesn't have to burn anything. Well played.
Yeah, especially because I'm pretty sure Darkwings is going to miss that cannon minion. I think just the attention and forcing Darkwings away when the wave is closer to Toasty's side has given that little bit of an advantage here. And looking at the spot lane, you see them getting the wave crash in right now, but I'm kind of thinking, partial to your point, about Chad being really strong early, that dragons, at least the first couple, should go the way of Fear. I'm kind of hoping they go towards that dragon stacking, because I think mid to late game, I really like what Wildcards have. I'm really looking at the Senna, the Azir, even the Olaf, into this comp will be really good. So I kind of agree with your earlier point that Fear really needs to get the ball rolling themselves.
Yeah, let's see if they prioritize that, as the objectives have now spawned. So the grubs on the top half of the map are the trade we've seen a lot of teams go for. I'm still not seeing a definitive answer as to like which one is stronger in win rates, but it's actually Winnie going for the drag.
Kangas.
Yes.
Aaron doesn't have a support item. The thing just dropped, but he doesn't have a support item, and we're 5 minutes in. That's got to be some new tech that I'm unaware of, because they changed it on this patch where you can't take full advantage of buying a Doran's item and then recalling to purchase World Atlas. So either Aaron just hasn't backed yet and hasn't gone for it, or maybe he's cooking something.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that was a thing on last patch where some supports would actually not go for that early item. It's about just surviving the lane. You are slowing down your vision stacking. We are picking it up now. So that was the plan from Aaron. You're slowing down your initial vision score. So you kind of are accepting that you're not going to be tracking as much of the bot side jungle. You're going to try and play safe down there, as so far they have been playing very safe. But now we're going to start trying to get towards those wards, as Daption actually roams up to the top side of the map. So it's not that dragon focus. Winnie got the first dragon, and now Fear are answering with the grubs, but they're going to be a little bit behind on that. So not what you were hoping for, as Lens could be in some trouble here. Ox has got the wave to play through, gets Flash and Ghost out of Lens.
Right, and one more thing I do want to add about Aaron's decision to buy World Atlas so late. You miss out on some of those early stacks. It's not just the ward, it is that support item, the Blood Song he's probably going to be building towards.
True.
That slows down the scaling of a champion who already takes a while to come online. So I am curious if that decision will come back to bite Wildcard, but for the most part, looking back at right now, the grubs went down. Chad is really strong at the moment here. Level 5, he has the Tiamat, so he does kind of have free reign over some of these neutral objectives, at least the grub's top side. But now we may finally see some top lane action here. Blacker's trying to crash the wave.
Yeah, good damage from Philip
Winnie's
there.
level
Winnie
6.
should know that Chad's around, so Winnie's actually invading, has the ultimate available. Chad does not. This is the advantage that Winnie had of just power farming, actually getting ahead of Chad in the clear. Chad's going to try and hit level 6 off of the Raptors, but Winnie's going to push him off.
It's basically a smite fight. If he gets 6,
he got it. He got it. Okay, so Chad does hit level 6 now. Can actually defend himself. Bold from Winnie, though. I mean, this jungler, man, we know that he likes to do this, but now Chad actually making the plan to Darkwings. When it becomes lightning lands, flashes over the Emperor's Divide. Chad with the outplay and first blood.
And that's what Fear need to get the ball rolling. Some early kills. Now Chad is feeling very strong. Doxa in a little danger. He still has the wind wall.
Didn't just immediately throw out that dredge line.
Wind wall, it's fine. Better the threat of it so that you can make space for Chad to take the red buff.
Ooh, speaking of, Aaron doesn't have a wind wall, but Dox is actually in front now. This is good position here for Wildcard. Chad realizing I did not actually want to take that. Doxa with a flash over the wall. They will trade a kill onto Daption.
Oh, they want more.
And they also got onto Toasty. Flashes away. When he used the ultimate, has to flash himself. A lot of damage coming in as Aaron actually flanks here. 1v1ing Lens. Meanwhile, Chad is 1v2ing Doxa and Winnie. Toasty trying to get as much damage as he can, but he's low on mana. And now finally Darkwings is there to play goalie. A very odd series of events right there. These teams, they're showing up to scrap right now.
There's a lot going on here for, I can say that one for sure, Kangas. Right now, it ended up being a lot traded away for one kill going the way of Wildcard, which is a good feeling. When he still had the ultimate available, and as soon as Daption commits, that's a good play coming through for them. So it does mean that things are mostly even. You got a slight gold lead in favor of Cincinnati here. But, I mean, overall, you're still getting a lot of what you want this early game.
Darkwings took Demolish. I just realized, this is Grasp. We're going to get Tank Azir. We haven't talked about some of the runes, but I have heard about this. I know that it's been played in other major regions. It's even played in Brazil. I think that Darkwings might try it out. I mean, we do see the Haunting guys. I don't remember exactly what the build is. I know that you'll go, like, I think Frozen Heart, things like that.
Yeah.
Snapshot might get caught right now. Nice knock up from Doxa.
There's the setup.
They get their champion. The support's down. Is now Chad trying to trade it right on back. Doxa will fall, but not before he knocks up Lens. So this is a double kill to Winnie. It's going to be a 3-for-1 trade in favor of Wildcard.
And Wildcard, they are back into this one. This is the thing that have looked so good about this team for me. Those first 10 to 15 minutes, they are ready to scrap, and they scrap really well, Kangas. And you can see it here. Winnie knows he has this angle. Daption, you just can't be here, my man. He needs to get out, but there's too much CC, and he dies before he can really make anything happen. It's even worse that he was level 5. There was no ultimate to speak of versus Aaron, who had it ready to go.
Yeah, rough look there from Fear support. Wildcard capitalizing on it. We've seen Winnie do this on both occasions. Whether he's ahead or behind in gold, he will make plays happen, as he's making another play happen on Adaption. Dredge lines to safety that time around. But Winnie, that bottom side jungle is just his favorite place to be. Is invading the enemy as a 1v1. Quacker looking for it. Oh, Philip gets back under the turret, though. Quacker's not willing to commit all the way. Will do Wildcard commit for anything here? Darkwings goes forward, gets the shuffle. Nice knock up onto Toasty, who's still alive long enough to get off the ultimate, but Chad does not have the DPS to trade anything back. That's 2 more kills to Wildcard.
And more gold into their pockets. Easy setup to go ahead and pick up their second Drake. Winnie is a little low, and maybe they're concerned about Lens, who does have his ultimate back up, so they're going to go ahead and back off, it looks like. But we're going to get another.
I'm happy we get a replay of this, because we didn't see the initial beginning. Darkwing's just full sets.
He just sees them all grouped up. He knows that Toasty blew his flash earlier, so that's the easy target. Even though Winnie whiffs the Glacial Prison, sorry buddy, we saw that, it still ended up being a good team fight, and some of the limited tools to set up the last breath from Doxa, so far they've been paying off.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that earlier on the pick onto Daption in the bottom jungle. Winnie just used the Arctic Assault. They use that on the single member. This time around, Darkwings uses the shuffle on one member. That's fine. If we kill that one, we can win the fight afterwards. But they don't earn themselves a dragon. Instead, Winnie goes for the Grub stop side, and Fear will get their first Drake of the game.
Yeah, I can respect that decision to not risk the gold that you've earned, because there were some members who were very low. You just want to recall, and you give that opportunity for Fear to go ahead and pick it up. At least Winnie can grab the grubs and deny 5 or 6 grubs coming through from Fear as well, because Chad got the first 3. And I honestly think it's like no harm, no foul. You're up almost 2K. You're in a really good spot overall in Wildcard, especially considering I like their draft the later we get into the game. So the pressure's really on Fear right now.
And not necessarily what I was expecting coming into this one. I did favor Fear, but we know Fear, they have not had a 2-0 or an 0-2. Fear will drop a game every time, and they will win a game every time. You know that. So I am expecting this series to go the distance to 3 games no matter what. That just seems to be Fear's MO. But sometimes games like this will happen. Daption getting picked off a few too many times. Chad not able to synchronize with the team. It looked good early on. It seemed like he was in the right places, but Darkwings and Winnie have kind of been out-executing a lot of that due to Doxa linking up with them.
And the thing too with Wildcard, the way they ended up making this draft, when they skirmish bot side, they actually have a lot of damage, and they have enough CC to work with too. Speaking of...
Philip. Yeah, and that Glacial Prison will land. Phil not able to sidestep it, so it just comes down to who gets the kill credit. Oh, it's Quacker that picks that one up. First kill of the game.
That just means the side lane is going to get even harder for Philip later on. And already, Quacker will have a good time in this matchup, and the more gold you toss into his pockets, the better it looks. And you can just see how the CC Wildcard have gotten for themselves works out in their favor. And kind of to your earlier point, I feel like Chad is thrown around in the bounce house when he tries to make plays in these skirmishes, and it actually makes it really hard for him to get damage done.
It's been rough. Chad, he's useful as a weed whacker in a desert right now. He just got no purpose here. Like, the Xin Zhao did not make the early plays happen, but maybe he can make this one happen. Oh, nope, just steals away the Krug's. Not actually going to commit to a play after the fact. Ooh, Daption, you are on vision, my friend. Winnie is right there. Arctic Assault. I mean, you don't want to have to burn Flash in an instance like this, though. I think he'll have to. Dredge line over, flash the wall, try and survive it. Does Winnie want to dive? Ooh, Donnie Shadow just barely missing. Daption has to burn the summoner to survive, though.
And still, he flashed away, as you said. It costs you a lot, but now you have a lot of pressure. You're free to move into this bottom side jungle, as you can already see. Winnie, Doxa, Aaron, they are taking their spoils, a.k.a. Chad's jungle camps. And look at the rest of Fear. They're forced away. They're forced to closer to their tier 2 in some instances, just because they can't actually walk into and face check Wildcard.
Yeah, I mean, the prize isn't just flash off adaption. You're right, it's taking the bottom camps. They know that the enemy support's not there, so they can just use brute force and numbers advantage to walk in. Herald's up, so that would be the next objective to look at, but so far both teams are happy to focus on the bot side. It looks like a dive under this turret onto Toasty, but Aaron might be out of position here, has to flash away. Fear are rotating everybody down to protect Toasty. Over the wall, Shockwave only onto one. They got Doxa, but if they get Doxa dead, that is worth it. Flashes away, big knockup.
Wow.
The shuffle, Doxa's still alive. Cannot fall. Wildcard use everything to keep their support up.
That was such an odd team fight. At the end of the day, no one goes down. So many summoners. Warts used, though.
Oh, no! We keep backing on enemy vision, though. Wildcard for the second time in a row now. Punish a member of Fear for trying to back in a brush that they could see.
And that ends up making it worse, because there was a moment where right before that happened, I was going to say Wildcard used a lot of summoner spells in that skirmish, and they had nothing to show for it. But instead, Toasty hands them a kill. Bottom tier 1 turret as a result, and that's more gold, leading, getting this lead up to about 4,000. So I really like Wildcard's chances going into this next streak, just because you're seeing some of these item spikes come through for various members of the team. The Senna, who's been accelerated by all this KP that Aaron's been getting, is also starting to get to a pretty decent spot right now. So my eyes are on Wildcard and how they're going to be able to clear out the vision coming through here. But actually, that priority looks like it's on Herald.
Yeah, I don't even know if they need to clear out any vision. I think that they can just, again, use their numbers advantage. They've been rotating Doxa and Winnie together the whole game. We were talking about it, you know, the Sejuani can make plays for the Olaf because you got that melee bruiser in the top lane that can stack the passive. Well, it's actually been more about mid lane and bot lane so far around because, again, Doxa can play this champ. I mean, this is the pros of having a mid laner swap to support. You have the ability to pull out champions like this. Now we're dropping the Herald in the mid lane. Throw it at the turret. It does crack it. So that is all outer turrets claimed for Wildcard. Philip will trade for the bottom.
Oh, and I like this. Are they just going to look bot, or is he going to crash?
They're just going to go into the dragon. Yeah!
That's pretty funny.
It's very interesting, actually. Okay, now I like this from Fear, though. They say, all right, let's just take advantage of it. Oh! Lens flashes, and Chad actually eats the ultimate. Daption, though, caught out of position from the rest of the team, and Fear are just getting shredded. They were not prepared for that fight. Lens had the quick fingers, but Chad and Daption just weren't on the same page. Are we actually going in, or are we running away? Daption goes in, Chad runs away. And again, we're seeing the missed synergy from the side of Fear. They are not playing coordinated. Oh, Lens didn't get the back off. Darkwings claims another kill. 12-2 on the scoreboard.
And this is brutal. This is just Wildcard having their cake and eating it too. They're using all the strength that they had to pick up that Herald. Now they get the Dragon on top of it as well. And it was such... I gotta imagine they were tracking Philip's TP, knew he was bot side, probably looking to recall. As a result, they were able to get so much from the fight.
Ooh, speaking of, Philip's actually taking a 1v2 right now. Takes down Aaron.
God,
Can you beat Quacker as well? Wow, he's actually doing a lot of damage here. Waiting for his cooldown to
He's
come back up. Quacker's got to avoid the sweet spots, but it doesn't matter. Philip with a shutdown in a 2v1.
That's got to feel good. You got something, and that kind of gives you an idea of what damage Philip's going to be able to do in team fights later. He has the Profane Hydra. He is going for more of the glass cannon build. But I wouldn't get too excited for Fear
That didn't seem like a glass cannon. I don't know. He lived for quite a while there.
I mean, nobody was really hitting him. Aaron was more focused on, juking left and right. We'll see it again. Oh, no, this is the fight earlier. And you know what? Yeah. I like this because they know Philip is recalling, and they must be tracking the teleports just to know that it isn't quite up yet, and they know they have an easy numbers advantage to play for.
Yeah, Chad uses his ult very late. I think that in his mind, I imagine you're calling just run, but you can't really run from all this chase down. You're right. It was a 4v5. Wildcard take advantage yet again. They are really utilizing these numbers advantages well so far in this game 1.
And it's gotten them to a very powerful position on the map. Basically, the only thing really left to look at for the next few minutes is the Baron, and with how strong Wildcard are at the moment, another fight like what we just saw in the replay, and that's just going to be a Baron for them. This is part of what we were highlighting in that pregame too, King, is a Wildcard, a team, strong early games, usually pretty consistent with a game plan and succeeding with it. The problem is just turning that one into wins, but they didn't get to this win record by not always converting it. So at this point, this is another example of a game where they're carrying their lead really well.
Yeah. I think that Wildcard are, without a doubt, in the driver's seat. They have a solid scaling composition. Senna and Azir and Sejuani are going to feel great as we get into the game. Speaking of the Azir, Darkwing shuffles back. Oh, and the combo from Doxa. They get flashed out of Phillip. He's locked down under turret and taken down. Wildcard yet again. Just goon squatting together. These 4 are just always at the same place at the same time and overpowering the opposition.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, they're just overloading a side lane, and it just keeps working, Angus. They'll just throw 3 or 4 people at a turret dive, and they have so much CC, they have so much playmaking potential that it kind of works, especially because Fear aren't respecting it. Yeah, Chad?
Is this Justice? Are we finally? Oh, okay.
I don't know if
I was going to say, are we finally going to see Wildcard back on Vision and get punished for it?
He's suspicious when he's like, something doesn't feel right. What's going on?
Winnie should know that he was on Vision.
It wasn't pinged.
There's a lot of mind games going on.
Exactly.
A lot of mind games going on. Also want to shout out, Darkwing's not going for the tank build. I got excited when I saw the runes, but no, it is, I guess, just Grasp with the Demolish and then going for a traditional AP. A tank Azir, I don't know if it's good. I know it happens. So we'll keep our eyes on that if it ever shows up.
So hear me out. I think what he's going for was partially, maybe it is a cook to give you more effective trades against Orianna, since that's not a great lane matchup for him. Plus, you're stacking health. Plus, I see another hunting guy's item. So, I mean, much like Smolder, when you go double hunting guys' items, you do end up building a lot of HP. So maybe all of that together will make Darkwings a little tankier in these team fights, since he is the one going in and sending it with the Emperor's Divide.
Well, right now the team's sending it onto the turret. Good combo from Phillip there. Actually defends the turret. I think that if that hadn't all landed onto Winnie and pushed Aaron back, turret could have gone down right there. Another sweet spot onto Quacker. The team's behind him. How hard do Fear want to send it right now?
They don't.
Not that hard. Okay.
They don't have vision. It's too dangerous. They already know that they are so far behind that another play like that going Wildcard's way, that's just an instant Baron coming through here.
Yeah, we're at that point of the game, right? You know,
yes.
2 minutes, 25 seconds now. Dragon's also coming up in 45, so now we start looking at that. You need to keep vision around the Baron in case the enemy tries to sneak it, but we also need to look at that Dragon. Wildcard are ahead in the stacking.
Right, and right as you say it, you can see Aaron, Doxa moving together just to lay down a little bit of vision. Nothing crazy, but the focus is definitely the bot side, as you said. It is that Drake stacking coming through here. Wildcard, they did miss one of them, but this one would be their sole point.
Oh, Aaron.
And Aaron, what's wrong with
He's
it?
all alone, but Fear, they're late to the map. They're behind in tempo, so they actually cannot just walk in. They don't have any vision. They don't know where Winnie and everybody is. There was a slight window there where Aaron was alone, and I was like, oh no, I'm getting... Yeah, I've seen this too many times. The squishy support gets picked right at the setup for the Dragon, but the vision that Wildcard bought themselves actually keeps them safe. Fear, they're just going to give the Dragon away. They're not going to contest.
Face-checking this comp is so dangerous, especially in the deficit you're in. So, I mean, it's wise of Fear to let this one go, but at the same time, you're kind of watching the game slip between your fingers, because it's not like it gets easier in 5 minutes, Kangas.
Yeah. And Wildcard are actually using this opportunity to make other plays. They're pushing mid, forcing Fear there, now ducking back into the Fog of War. Winnie's just soloing the Dragon. They will get it. I think that if Fear, the decision was give the Dragon, I would have liked to see more, or at least a faster movement elsewhere. They lost Prio mid, and they gave up Dragon. I know it's tough against the Azir because they dropped down the turret. Ooh, okay, now they're making a play into the top lane. They get out Ragnarok from Quacker. He's just fine. That is teleport used as Wildcard now just keep pushing in mid.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity to hit this tier 2. I mean, you probably have to go the other way as the members of Fear. I don't think you can actually walk through that one pathway until the wave ends up being cleared. So you really just get nothing for that teleport, because Quacker...
The Ragnarok for Quacker has to flash. He used the Ghost earlier as well, so Phillip taking advantage of that. Has to assault over the wall, get away from Winnie here, who is looking at him. I want to go back to the play that had happened up at that top side, though. Toasty used the teleport to try and get up there, and now Toasty's bot side. Fear are going to have to figure out a way to swap Philip bot, get Toasty back up top side, because if Baron started by Wildcard, there's no teleport answer for Toasty to actually jump up there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of keeping my eyes on the members of Wildcard at the moment, too, because, yeah, Toasty's here. You can see the members of Wildcard walking towards the top side. I'm curious if Toasty shows up on the next wave, or they see him walk past the ward on this bottom side of the map. That could give you the inkling like, hey, he's still pretty far away. What if we just started this?
Okay, now they see him. He was actually doing a good job of avoiding that ward. I don't know if they knew that it was there or not, but now Fear have reassigned the lanes. Philip's actually walking mid. Bot is going to continue to shove into them. Let's see what they want to do with that one right now. They have the Chain of Corruption from Lens if they want to start a fight onto Aaron, but weren't willing to pull the trigger right there.
Yeah, things are kind of slow right now. Fear taking what little opportunities they can, trying to set up vision. We're getting to this point where a desperate Baron take off a reset timer for Wildcard is one of their only options to maybe try and come back in this game, get some gold back into your pockets. Because every other opportunity, it just kind of seems like it isn't going to work for them. We got that lane swap you were hoping for, Kangas, and I agree that ends up being the proper lane assignments for these teams, but ultimately you're still going to get forced out in any every meaningful way.
I'm happy because it's the teleport where you need it, but I'm not happy because Philip does not want to lane against Darkwing. So this is better for Wildcard still. I think it's necessary for Fear to have the teleport on the opposite side of the map, because otherwise Wildcard can just threaten taking the Baron and Toasty can't get there in time. But Philip's very upset that he has to now lane against the Azir. Aatrox really can't do anything against that champion. And now look at Darkwings. He's just teleporting straight to the Baron. Are we we're just going to shotgun this?
You have a lot of damage. You have a marksman. You have a Azir. I really like their chances to just be able to insta-take this. But they might be looking to
third item for Darkwings too. Winnie's over the wall. He's not actually threatening the smite. So Chad says, well, you got to get over there. Arctic Assault used. Long cooldown for Wildcard's Sejuani. But they're backing off of the Baron for right now. Philip, he didn't teleport. He just walked all the way down. So they do have the Summoner Spell advantage for right now as the Baron has reset.
Yeah, in Season 14, Baron take Kangas. This thing's tanky as hell, even with a marksman, even with Azir. You can't take it fast enough to sneak it sometimes. So Fear, it didn't cost them anything to stop the Baron, which has got to feel good. But Wildcard, they can just do this again. They can keep doing this kind of at their leisure. We're a minute 30 till Drake, so we may not see them actually prioritize it right now with their soul being on the cards, but you can see them trying to get control over this top side. Kind of like you said earlier, just get vision so that when you take Drake, it's not a trade.
I would have preferred to see them play more for the bot side, though. I think that teleport from Darkwings was very ambitious. They didn't get teleport out of Philip, so now they're actually down a TP. Toasty is about to come up, and now they're just making a play onto Chad in the jungle. Flash away as ultimate available. Doesn't have to use it yet. Winnie's not committing to Glacial Prison. Still has not used it. Rooted down, taking a lot of damage from Lens, who used the Chain of Corruption. Chad goes back in. Winnie might have waited too long. Philip flashing in. Big engage from the Aatrox and earns that shutdown. Nice shuffle from Darkwing, trying to keep away the damage, but it did not knock away Lens. Doxa, meanwhile, can take down Chad with the help of his mid laner. But speaking of, that mid laner just fell. Now Doxa's got to run away. Flashes straight into Philip's waiting arms. Philip makes the play happen. Chad leads the charge. Fear walk out victorious.
And just like that, they get several kills, almost ace, and they're going to get the Baron. This was their ticket back into the game, and Wildcard handed it to them on a silver platter. This is what we talk about, what we see from these two teams sometimes. You have a lead, and you guys seem unsure about what play you want to go for next, because I mean, it just seemed like they were so disconnected in that fight, and it gave Fear this perfect opportunity to, they're getting rid of objective bounties. They've gotten thousands of gold into their back pockets, and it's earned some pretty big item spikes for members of Cincinnati Fear. I mean, we're looking at almost a third item for Toasty. We're looking at the third item for Lens, who has actually pretty quietly gotten himself to a really strong position right now.
Well, we're set up for the dragon fight right now. Philip yet again finding it onto Aaron. Pushes Winnie out. So after all of that, though, Dragon stacking, this would be sole for Wildcard. Not only is it the Baron, but after the play, Fear get back onto the map faster. Winnie might look for the steal. He doesn't have Smite, but it's about to come off cooldown. But no, Chad secures it. Now we're just starting the fight onto Daption. The Nautilus will fall. 5v4. Can Wildcard keep the chase going? They have Glacial Prison. Chad jumps in. Stasis used. Chad invulnerable. Dark Wings goes down. Fear are winning another fight. Deny the Dragon Soul. Win a fight afterwards. Why not? At least it's a trade as they claim the mid laner for their own support. You'll take that any day of the week.
You sure will. And again, Fear, they've managed to stabilize what was looking like a pretty doomed game one. They're halfway towards that soul. They got a minute 30 on this Baron. They likely, besides maybe the mid-tier one, won't be able to knock down any structures as a result, but this is an opportunity for them to get the map in a more favorable position, push out some of these sideways, get some aggressive vision of your own for what feels like the first time this game.
I hope that we get a chance to replay the fight before the Baron. I know that once all that happened, we had to go straight to the Dragon, but a lot of intricate moments were happening there. You were saying it, highlighting it, it feels like Wildcard, they had such synergy early on when they were overloading one side of the map against individuals, but since then they've been struggling in the 5v5s as now Winnie making another pick here. This is where they found success. When it isn't the big 5v5, you find one person out of position, you overload onto them. They're just going to keep chasing down onto Daption, but watch out for Philip on the flank. He will claim Winnie. Darkwing shuffles nobody as Toasty does flash away. Philip, the main character for Fear, Lens with the double kill, and Fear can just do no wrong, it seems. Philip with another kill on the Rampage as Fear win another fight.
Hey, Wildcard are crumbling.
Oh, wait, Lens has Chain of Corruption.
Oh, yeah.
It's not dodge. Damage in. He claims it. Ace. Can he get the turret? Oh, no! Honestly, if he just kept hitting the turret, he might have had it. But you know what?
The wave and stuff.
Yeah, they still win the fight. That's an ace.
It is, and I was wrong. They're going to get some extra value from this Baron buff as a result, too, and we're going to take a look at this fight. It's Wildcard. This is how we describe Winnie in particular, all gas, no breaks. And you can see it. The angle looks good at the start with the CC immune coming through here from
this
Olaf.
moment.
Exactly.
It's a flash from Olaf that I think they go too deep.
So the real problem, though, for me is that Lens is under no threat this entire fight. Look at his health bar. He is free to space. He is free to auto-attack. And remember, earlier I said he's more than 3 items deep at this point. So he does a lot of DPS. The whole point about this comp from Wildcard, where we are all inning, overloading of the CC so that we can blow up members, is in hopes that you can get kills onto people like Toasty and Lens. Using all your cooldowns on Chad is exactly what Fear wants you to do.
Yeah, Lens was unleashed right there. And Lens has been having a slower start to the split than we expected. We have high expectations for Lens. He's one of the 80 carries that we're keeping our eyes on, especially now that players like Masu and Meech have gotten promoted to LCS. Lens is that guy that we're like, okay, well, I mean, his biggest competition's gone. Can he keep his name in that conversation as, you know, next in line? He is sitting at second lowest damage per minute statistically in the league. He's bottom half damage percentage. It's actually been more of the other members of the team stepping up, specifically Philip, who again is having a fantastic showing right here. But if you do let Lens free fire, he's got the hands. It's not that, you know, he's got low damage per minute because he isn't able to play the game at a high level. It's because the team hasn't been requiring him to. But and there's moments like this where even on like a tankier Varus build, he can pump out a lot of damage.
100%, and I'm really glad you pointed out the build too. I really like the Jack Show coming in at the end. You combine it with the resistances you get from the Terminus, it's going to be pretty hard to actually take down Lens unless you hit him with that wombo combo. You limit his ability to actually output damage in these team fights. And it feels like we're at a point in the game where Fear, I don't want to say they can't lose, but they have so much gold, and members like Philip and Chad are so tanky. You see the Sterix coming through for both of them. It means that it's hard for Wildcard to actually get on the back line.
I will say, I think the Wildcards still have a chance here. They still have good scaling. They have 4 items, Yasuo, and Dark Wings has kind of been a non-factor the last 2 fights. If this Azir gets the, you know, the big high-impact shuffle, that can just win them the game. Wildcards still have the tools. They just haven't been able to use them correctly the last couple of fights. So it feels like Fear have the momentum, but they don't have the game on lock. They do have Philip on a flank here. Lens as well. Lens has got to be careful. He's got both summoner spells. He's getting hunted. They're actually hunting Philip instead, though. Now Wildcard, they might get collapsed on. Aaron in trouble, flashes away from Shad. The front line. Quacker with a big flank. Darkwings gets the shuffle. Darkwings, massive damage with Noxa on top of it. This is the fight they need, but can they kill Chad? Can they kill Toasty? Most importantly, can they kill Lens? The answer to most of those questions is no. Fear keep running through Wildcard. And yet again, I mean, it's not a win necessarily, it's a trade, but considering how that started, Wildcard felt like they were set up to win that one.
And we're going to take another look because I want to see how this one played out. Again, in my mind, Lens is the target at this point. You need to get this Varus out of the picture. It's nice that they got the shutdown on Philip, but look at Lens, this entire fight. Honestly, it doesn't end up mattering, Kangas, because look at him. He is just free firing. They're in his range. I respect the ult from Winnie to buy his team some time, but at the end of it, he did too much in this fight, and that can't be allowed.
And yet again, Aaron tries to take the 1v1 against him. Okay, never mind. We're back to live. Quacker and Darkwings are two-man Baron.
A little crazy.
Toasty's here with low mana bar, but does have the shockwave. I think that's going to be the most damage possible here out of anybody present. So Toasty should be able to get this Baron. It is reset. Darkwing's trying to keep it down, but now Fear show up, and okay, they push off Wildcard. It was an interesting look there, but spotted out by Fear.
Yeah, now we're starting to feel that desperation for Wildcard, trying things like this. It feels like they can't win a fight anymore. Darkwings, I will point out, he did finish that fourth item, the Riftmaker. He also has the Zanyas in his pocket too, so I'm hoping he uses that to go for a more aggressive play setup. I need this guy to ult Toasty, Kangas. If we don't shuffle Toasty into a last breath, I don't want it, I don't care for it.
I mean, at this point, I'm also looking at Lens. I mean, you've said it a couple times now. This guy's just free firing.
Oh, sorry, I meant to say Lens.
Fights.
I meant to say Lens. I lied to you. I apologize.
Toasty's not a bad secondary option, but Winnie is so far the target for Fear. The tanky Sejuani does not have the backup, but a lot of damage onto Chad and Daption. Actually forces Fear back. Darkwings got there in time, and Darkwings is outputting a lot of damage at this point in the game. Fear need to respect that. They are ahead in gold, but just barely. And I still like Wildcard's chances if they get the right fight.
Yeah.
Speaking of, they're just hunting right now. Fear, oh no, Lens backed. Them to run all the way back to Baron right now. Fear not quite ready to set up for this. They're teleporting in Toasty. Fear are going to be on the approach. Over the wall goes Philip. He's in, flashes onto Aaron, shuffled back.
That was close.
And it's actually secured by Darkwings of all people, but now the combo comes through. Massive damage from Noxa. Big knock up and a double kill to Winnie. Wildcard, that's the fight we're talking about. If Darkwings can output DPS and they can land the combos, they win these fights.
I think they win this game. These are long spawn timers, Kangas, and I hope we can see a replay or something. Doxa is the hero, landing that Q3, landing the Whirlwind so Chad couldn't dash for the Baron steal. That was such a clutch moment coming through here, and it's looking like, because of the lack of the minion wave, things are going to be a little slow. Toasty doesn't have the ultimate to try and clear it. I think it still end this game.
I think they can. Lens has the Chain of Corruption. Noxa's got the Wind Wall. If we can blank that, that's the biggest tool to slow this down. It's up to Toasty and Lens. They got to hit the wave, but now they're just getting dove underneath the turret. Daption's up, but it's not in time. The turrets are melting as Quacker pushes everybody away. Wildcard just needed that one fight, and they found it. They'll take game one.
Kangas, we knew both these teams
were
going to be down to scrap, but I didn't think it was going to be like that. It was definitely a messy game, but props to Wildcard for kind of picking their moment there at the end. I think Lens going for that recall and then Wildcard immediately going for the play. I mean, I was harping about it the last 15 minutes. If Lens isn't there, it's not winning.
Yeah, Lens was able to free fire in a couple of those fights. That's what got Fear back into it, but if either you're not able to free fire or you're just not there, then the fight's going to look very different. And props to Philip for trying to get on the back line. Darkwings uses the shuffle defensively this time around, so Emperor's Divide's back into the Baron. Yeah, we can actually get another look at this. So watch Philip here. I like the initial thought.
Kangas, watch Doxa. Watch the Q3. Oh, it already, I guess it already happened.
No, I think it's right here. Yeah, boom.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a big team fight, but what I was like highlighting was him preventing Chad from going in for the Baron steal. I think that's what stood out to me. Because denying that Baron gets stolen, that fight could go a little differently. I mean, either way, again, wild card, they choose their moment, they executed, and they won a game that I started to believe they would lose, which is good.
Back and forth game one. It delivered in the entertainment value for sure. We're going to send it to a short break, though, to see what the teams have in store for game two right after this.
They said it couldn't be done. They said the world would never accept a cookie this long. Or a churro, and probably not a pretzel either. They also said, under no circumstances should those really long and delicious treats be wildly affordable. To which we said, but we already made them. And they are. Introducing the incredible new foot-long sidekicks. Get one at Subway today.